Hello everyone, Crafty Josephine here, and today I'm going to show you how I sew my Thanksgiving turkey gnome. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is trace my pattern onto some felt. This is for the gnome body. The base will be about 4 inches wide. You can find all the patterns on my blog, and the link to that is in the description below. Now I'm just cutting out the body of the gnome so that I can sew it together later. Now I'm going to use my pattern for the hat to cut out 2 pieces of sweater material. If you don't have sweater material, you could use fleece or any other material. Just know that for this gnome body, it won't make a very tall hat, so if you're looking to make your hat very tall or looking to slouch a lot of it over to the side, you might want to make your hat longer. Now I'm just sewing my gnome body together. I leave about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once I've gotten the 2 pieces sewn together at the base of the gnome, I can then sew the side of the gnome. I leave about 2 or 3 inches for the opening at the bottom so that I can add the rice bag later and also the polyfill stuffing. Next, I'm going to sew up my sleeves. I'm going to start by sewing one short edge over on each of the sleeves just to give it a nice clean finish, and then I'll sew up the sides. I'll do this for both arms. Next, I'm going to sew under the bottom edges of each of the triangular pieces of hat. Once those edges are sewn under, then I'll put the 2 pieces right sides together and sew up the sides. I filled a plastic sandwich bag with about 1/3 or 1/2 cup of rice and then tied it off with a rubber band. I'm going to turn my gnome's arms right side out and just trim off all those loose threads from when I was sewing. The arms can be tricky to turn right side out, so I suggest using a pencil with an eraser on the end. It makes it much easier. Once I've turned my gnome body right side out, I can start filling it with the polyfill, and then I can also put my rice bag in at the bottom. Next, I'm just going to use the ladder stitch to close up that hole that I had in my gnome for stuffing. Now that I've finished sewing up my gnome body, I'm going to go ahead and turn my hat inside out. Before I do that, I'm just going to trim away a little bit of the extra fabric near the seams at the point of the hat, because that'll be really bulky if I leave it there when I turn it inside out. And of course I have to be careful not to cut into my seams. I'm going to cut some of my faux fur material for the gnome's beard using an X-Acto knife. I don't use an exact pattern for this, I kind of just eyeball it. So now I'm going to trace my turkey patterns onto my felt, and I'm going to make sure that I flip each of the patterns over so that I get a front and back of each piece of the turkey's body, the legs, and the wings. I need one turkey platter and then 2 pieces of bone for the turkey's leg. Then I'm ready to cut everything out. cutting out all my pieces from felt, I'm going to go ahead and sew up my turkey using 2 strands of embroidery floss in a matching color, and I'm going to use the back stitch. I'm going to stuff each part of my turkey. After all, what's Thanksgiving without a nice fat bird? Now I'm just going to use my scissors to cut out some leafy greens from some green felt to add to my turkey platter. I'm just going to use a little bit more embroidery floss to stitch the pieces together, but you could always use hot glue if you wanted. Next, I fill each arm of the gnome with a little bit of fiber fill, and then I glue the pom-pom hands inside the sleeve. If you wanted to, you could also add a piece of wire inside each arm. That way you'll have a little bit more control of exactly how the gnome will hold the turkey platter. I didn't do that for this gnome, but I do sometimes add wire to their arms. Next, I'm going to glue the bottom of the gnome's beard to his body, and I'm going to cover the seam of the gnome. You could always just put the seam of the gnome in the back if that's what you prefer. Next, I'm going to hand sew on the gnome's arms, and then I'm going to hand sew on his hat. I used this really cute cotton print fabric that I found for the gnome's arms, but if you didn't have a printed fabric that you liked, you could always just make the arms to match the color of the body, the same color felt. Before I stitch on the gnome's hat, I'll add just a little bit of fiber fill to the top point. It doesn't need a lot. It fits pretty closely to the size of the gnome's body. The last things I'm going to do are attach his wooden ball nose with some hot glue, and then I'm going to stitch the turkey platter to his sleeves. I stitch it to his sleeves because I feel like I can hide my knots better that way. You could also just hot glue the platter to his hands as well. Well, that's it for the Thanksgiving turkey gnome. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to share with you a couple of variations I've made in the past of this gnome. When I still had the sleeves, I was able to use the sleeves to make a cuff for the gnome. So I made one with a slouchy hat and one that stands tall. Let me know in the comments which you prefer, cuff or no cuff, slouch or no slouch. And if you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.